Welcome to Jewels for Life podcast. As you already know, I'm your host, Azandi, and you're tuned into the Vantage Point. We have some lovely, bright faces on the screen today. I think this is the fullest we've ever been at one time. and so today is a continuation of last week. Last week, we had 4 or 5 interviewers on who will be interviewing at the Ladies of Purpose Christ Consciousness Conference next Saturday. So if we can put the flyer up on the screen, if not, you'll see it pop up throughout today. Here it is. So this is the Ladies of Purpose Christ Consciousness Conference that will be taking place next week, the 24th at 6:30 p.m. and the 25th at 2 p.m. And so today we switched it up. We changed the people that we have on the screen from the interviewers to the speakers. So today we have with us the speakers for the Christ Consciousness Conference. And for those tuning in for the first time, here we wish to inspire Nubian Melaninites all across the globe to look at their life, look at the world from a different vantage point, a vantage point that will propel them towards awakening and Black liberation through action. So, as you know, we bring on different scholars, philosophers, theologians, professionals to help us and give us words of encouragement, give us tools that we can use in this everyday fight against racism, white supremacy. So today is I think we only have 2 strangers to the Jewels for Life podcast. Everyone else has been here today, has been on this show. So if you haven't seen it, go back to the past episodes where you met Dr. Nicole Ford, Dr. Charlene Chase, Diana Powell, and Associate Pastor Karen Hilton, also known as Kahun Tefnut. So today we have 3 new faces. It would be Sister Teresa Norris at the top. Over to the right of her, we have Tisha Fritz. And lastly, we have Sister Cherise Hannah. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Welcome. What I would like, because this is your first time on the Jewels for Life podcast, and today I just want to set the table and just let you all know we're going to do this a little different, right? I want everyone to imagine that we are sitting at a table. It's a round table, and we're all sitting at this table just having a conversation. Now, last week, I said we were having a conversation, but I just wanted them to feel comfortable, right? I didn't want them to be nervous. This time, we're really doing this a little bit different than we've ever done on the Juice for Life podcast, and we're going to all talk. And so it's not going to be me ask a question, you answer it, you answer it. I want the next person to jump behind the other person. If you have a point to add your point. We're sisters and we're talking, and that's what today will be like. And so before we get started, if we can have Sister Teresa and then go over to Sister Tisha Fritz and down to Sister Cherise Hannah to just introduce yourselves and tell us a little about yourselves, please.
Namaste, sisters. Namaste, everyone. I'm Teresa, Sister Teresa. I'm originally from Greenville, South Carolina. Right now, I'm temporarily living in Atlanta, Georgia. I been here about 7 years or so, just waiting to retire, go back to the great city of Greenville. I can't wait. Um, I have a grandson and a granddaughter who I miss terribly. Love being with them very, very much. Just waiting to go back to South Carolina.
Now, Sister Teresa, now, I think you're being a little humble today. I think you're being a little humble because I've heard some things about you, Sister Teresa, and we don't need a complete rundown. We do not need a complete rundown. We don't need your whole history, but I know you did play a big role in the church in Greenville. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Oh, yes. I helped started the Greenville chapter of the Kanisa. Me, Elder Mike, Elder Chris, and Elder Linwood at the time, we got it rolling. We started it, basically. Elder Mike came to us, and we just took it from there and started rolling with it.
Okay. Yes. And so she's done some phenomenal things in the Greenville area. That's Greenville, South Carolina. And I've seen and I've heard so much about her. And so I want to make sure that you get that recognition today. And over to you, Sister Tisha Fritz. How you doing today?
I am excellent. As Beautiful to be here amongst all these beautiful, bright, beautiful ladies. Look at you guys. Okay, my name is Tisha Fritz. I'm also known as Amunet Hikaka. I am a Minivazer here in the Bahamas of the Holy Coptic Church. I am a critical theology year 3 student also of the Holy Coptic Church. I am a health and wellness coach by profession and also a culinary instructor. As you can see, I'm still at school. So this is my classroom here. Still
That's
never,
okay.
work's never done.
Yes, that's right.
I'm married. I'm a loving wife. And I have 5 beautiful children.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And we appreciate you joining us today from the
Thank you for
school, from
having
the
me.
classroom. That's what I'm talking about. And Miss Sister Sharice Hannah, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. I'm so
Good.
excited to be here. I really am.
Yes, we're so glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, so I am from the Bahamas. I live where people come to vacation.
Yes, and that's all.
I am an identical twin. My twin was on last week. Her name is Shaniko Bethel.
Yeah.
I am a wife. I will be celebrating 28 years of marital bliss tomorrow.
Okay.
Woo-hoo, 28
Woo,
years
woo.
with one man.
That's
So,
right. Represent.
and we have 4 children and 1 granddaughter.
Okay, so this is going to be a great discussion. I think the panel here is very diverse. We're coming from different parts of the world. As you know, Kahun Tefnut is over in England. We have Sister Eri Ma'at that's in the UAE. Dr. Chase coming from Trinidad and Tobago. We have Nassau, Bahamas. We have another Bahamian, I should say. And then we have Greenville, South Carolina, Dr. Ford, Atlanta, South Carolina. I know she's all around just moving and shaking. So I'm very excited. So I just want everyone to relax and let's talk, right? Because we have this conference coming up. And I want people to understand, the importance of this conference, but just want to join us and hear, what we have to say. And so just speaking as a lady first, right? Because it's not strictly about ladies or women or females, however you want to put it, but I think we need to speak from our perspective, from our experience. And so, what are some non beneficial things that you value before you work so vigorously to become, and of course, still becoming a lady of purpose? What are some of those things that we had to give up? And then I would like to start with you, Sister Teresa, and then we'll go around because it's around the table. So we'll go around the table.
Oh, what did I have to give up? Oh, I had to give up. Ooh. Try to give up wearing more dresses. Uh, stop wearing jeans. Because I still wear them, but I have to wear them to work. But
Right.
as far as when trying to going out day to day, I try to dress up in dresses,
Mhm.
starting to look more cultural.
Right. And I can relate to that. That's something I can definitely relate to. I know as I work to become, it's always a challenge for people to say, hey, this is how I dress my entire life. But now I have to change that. But you see that the more you change, your behavior change, your demeanor changes, the way you
Right.
carry yourself,
Mhm.
your esteem, all of these things change along with, your clothing. So I'm definitely able to relate to that. And I don't want to go around. I said we weren't doing that. So somebody, I'm leaving it up to you. Somebody jump in and help us
Okay,
out with
I'll
this
jump in.
discussion.
I'll jump in one time.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not about what I had to give up, as in what I have gained. You see, becoming a lady of purpose, is not about what we having about having to give up wearing my mini skirts,
Mhm.
my happy moments in the universe, give up wearing. It's not about that, but it's I have gained so much. The things I have gained is peace of mind. You know, as a Christian in monotheism, going to the Pentecostal church, we used to talk about this thing. I've got the peace that passes all understanding.
Mm.
My
Mm.
goodness, growing into this lifestyle, growing into this way of life, there are things that are going to come at you, but you really do get that peace which passes understanding. And it's not a spooky something, you know, I fall on my knees and I pray, although we do fall on our knees and pray, but it's a matter of understanding what's going on around you, why it's happening, what is happening. And okay, let's see how we can shift. You know, our teacher, the Basesh, keeps saying shift by 1 degree. And I was explaining that to one of my math students in terms of bearings and mathematics. 1 degree is a very small measurement. But as those two lines, the line from the original point and the line of the degree, if you have 1 degree, as those points go further and further out, they become further and further apart. So that's changing by 1 degree. So it's not about what I've had to give up as to what I have gained.
Okay, so now there were how do I want to put this? Okay, so there was nothing that you deemed as non-beneficial. You know, it could be music, it could be whatever, and nothing you deemed non-beneficial that you said, hey, I have to remove this from my reality at this time. And I want everybody to, I have my little one here today.
Hi, baby.
Yes, bring your daughter to work day.
Yeah.
So just throwing that in there.
Give up? No. You see, the stage I was at, yes, there were things I had to give up, but already being on a journey to ladyhood, already being on a pathway. Let me tell you, I had fun. I was a carnival dancer. I danced for the Mardi Gras, Summit of the Americas, performed. I had a great
Want
time.
to see these pictures now?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Bacchanal.
I am actually in music, in carnival soca music videos. Yes, the skimpiest thing I ever performed in was a fluorescent orange string bikini with black and white body paint. That was my costume. So by the time but I had been there, done that. I retired from dance in 2010. My daughter was about almost 3 years old when I retired from dance. So, you know, you've tried everything. Now what? Try righteousness. So, in terms of you've tried everything. Oh, I had a ball. I didn't get into much misdemeanors and much mischief, thankfully, because at the back of my mind, I knew my mother was a little crazy. My mother was one of those strict mothers. She's never seen me perform on stage, ever. She's never seen me perform. Not that she didn't know I was performing, but to me, it was disrespectful for her to see me perform, to even see my costumes. So in terms of having to give up, I was at the point where, hey, yeah, I've had fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump on in this pool.
Go
Since we
ahead.
Talk about what we giving up, and I'm gonna be the smile police too, because I have a sister in the UAE, and it is like an 8 to 10 hour difference. And so every time you all see me, and I keep on saying, like my sister Diane, I'm gonna make her smile. She gonna smile out throughout this. Every time we look back on this, we're gonna be like, you see, she's smiling. In 1 Corinthians, I want to say chapter 11, it talks about a woman who has long hair and how your hair is your adornment, right? And it's a sense of beauty. And so I want to come from that standpoint of what I had to give up. And I had to give up perms, chemicals, and relaxers, and not having straight long hair. And, you know, now in retrospect, just wanting to be accepted professionally in my career. And I remember as a child, real talk, putting the towel on my head, whipping it around, you know, being like in the commercials, flinging it, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I thought that was beauty. I thought that unconsciously my mind was like, that's pretty. That is pretty. And so right around, give or take 2010, maybe before that, I want to say maybe like really like 2000, 2004 because it was a wedding and I had a best friend at the time. And I was like, okay, I'm about to go natural. And she was like, but not for my wedding. Um, and because they couldn't see it when natural hairs first came out, people was like, you could be natural, but I need you to put a weave in. Seriously. So I gave up that, and I'm so grateful now because I've seen a lot of Black women as they gotten older, Latino women, just women, hair thins, alopecia, cancer that comes from the chemicals. We just were ignorant in the sense of we did this thing, but we did not know anything about this thing, what it was doing, how it was entering our pores. So I'll be the first one to say, the New Testament, Book of Corinthians, from the Greeks, they were not talking about me, but at the time I didn't know it. So I went natural. That was a decision. I had to give up my perm, my $1,500 wig. It was great. It was awesome.
Well,
That's real.
I'll jump in as well. Yes, I definitely can. I feel with Dr. Ford is saying, but before I went into tonism, I was already on the path. When I was in college, I was one of those who, I was modeling and cut my perm hair and all the weave off, and they just grabbed that, but little did they know that I was coming there and saying, okay, I'm not wearing any more short clothes. I'm not wearing any more pants. And so you can't do that in the fashion industry. So I walked out of that. But one of the things that I definitely can say that that I'm actually still learning how to do, okay? And that's really not feeling like I'm alone in this fight. That is definitely one. Growing up, I always felt alone, feeling that I was in this. Even when I met my husband, just hearing him talk the information, I was like, where did you come from? Everything that he was saying, I was thinking and reading. And so it feels good. And yet I'm still learning also to know that I'm not in this alone.
Yes, that's true.
I was going to add that thing on our journey, there is the degree of courage as well. Because there is that, said loosely, there's that coming out or coming into yourself. Along my journey, I did the party hard. I did all that things that young people would tend to do today. But I got to a point where I said there must be more to this. And I had a very tight circle of friends, which I would term as sisters. And I think as I started to become or to evolve into myself, into my consciousness, I started to slowly lose interest in those things that they were interested in, and started to become more conscious. I wanted to know more about my culture, about my ancestry. And it changed me from head to toe. I can relate with Dr. Ford in terms of the hair, because I had the weaves, I had the perms, I had the reds, I had the purple, I had literally every color.
Oh yeah,
He had the reds and the purples.
I want to see these pictures.
Any pics?
I know.
I can't imagine that now.
But I think there is courage as well, because even though, as women of faith now, we're surrounded by our sisters, but when you get to that point, you're shifting yourself from one point to another, and it can get to be quite lonely. But then there is that courage. I during that period, I decided to read, to kind of help me to stay focused, but also to reassure myself that I am on the right path. Even when I used to go to work, I used to have the short mini skirts and the blouses. But then one day I went in at the Africa garb. My manager looked at me like I was crazy. And I walked in confidence in who and what I am and what I represented. and they respected that. And a lot of the customers that came to see me also respected that. So I would say it takes a lot of courage to do it.
Yes, that's true.
I'd
Sister
like to,
Sharice Hannah, you look like you were ready to go.
yes, I'd like to say that I gave up. For me, it was giving up the type of material that I read.
Mm.
Um, my husband always used to say, if it's not coming on the test, he's not reading it. That was something he did. But I found that the type of material I read, I no longer read. I don't even have the desire to read them.
Mm.
And
What was some of that material?
like the Nails and Bones.
Mm.
I'm sure. I don't know what type of romance books are out now, but back
Yes.
in my day, there were
Mhm.
Nails and Bones.
Okay.
So and so I find that I've never read so much in my entire life. I've never done so much research, and it just opens your eye to know that the information is there, and it's been there. You
Mm.
know, and I always ask the question: there has to be more, so much more that we as women can do, not just
Mhm.
with our family, but in our community. So that has been a change for me.
Okay. Cajon Tefnut, Associate Pastor Karen Hilton. We see you.
Yes, yes.
I gave up a few things actually. I gave up quite a few things. Well, not quite a few things, but a few things. Coming into as a teenager, well, actually, in my 20s, before I ventured this journey, because it was something that I was always kind of geared towards. Or growing up with my grandmother, she was a church woman, so we was that way of life anyway. But then when you get to your teens, you kind of like, whoa, the world, let's go have a look. So you're touching and tasting things like a child in a shop. Oh, let's touch this. And so coming into my 20s, I kind of gave up alcohol. I gave up wearing trousers. I gave up doing the little wine bars. I gave up, it's like, walking the light as if, all can see you. So, when people looking at you, like, okay. So for me, it was even though my mind was sort of like gearing towards that journey, the physical body wasn't quite there yet. So, slowly but surely, started to look at it and say, well, what is a lady? What is she? And I used to listen to India Ari all the time when she has that lyric about, well, Mama
Yes.
says, a lady is not what it's what you know. So it's like, what is that? So I gave up a few things, and I realized that there had to be, and I agree, like what my sister Dr. Chase said, you tried everything else, and I was one that tried mostly everything else. I won't say I tried everything. Mostly. So, I kind of stopped
Go ahead.
those. Yeah, that was it.
Yes.
No
I can
wine
relate
anymore.
to everyone. I may be the worst one here. Oh my goodness. No, like, yeah, me too. You too. Oh, me. You. Everybody. Oh my goodness. So,
Yeah.
and so I can relate to everything, even going, back to when I was working as a minor. I used to get on a plane and go to Atlanta. My aunt lived in Atlanta, but I used to work at a hair salon. And I was just telling someone this story the other day. And I used to take all the money from working at the hair salon, and I would go to Barnes and Nobles, and I was buying books, but I was like, I was buying all the wrong books. So, I was buying all the urban books and listening to the wrong kind of music. And I can relate to the hair and the dress and everything. And so it's a journey and it's a process. But I think it's important because we're just like everyone else. Those watching who maybe haven't made as many adjustments or still trying to make adjustments in their life. No, we're just like you. We all
That's
have
right.
been affected by racism, white supremacy in some way, shape, or form. So each one of us has had to grow and are still growing. We're still in the process of growing through it. So my question then is, what should our values be? We valued all of these things, from the alcohol to the weed. I think Cajon Tefnut left that out. The right. And so all of these things that we did, hold or have value. What should we value now? And that's anyone who wants to pick it up.
I'll jump in. So what should we value? I think first of all, we should value that we've made it this far in this place right now, being here in this moment, and have shifted to a lady of strength because we've overcome so many obstacles, so many feats that were against us. So valuing our strength, valuing that courage to even step out of those things that are so normalized in society. Um, yeah, I'll let others jump in. So the strength,
Yeah.
valuing your strength, and definitely valuing the courage to stand up, and even though you may feel alone in it, to be able to stand courageously.
Hmm. Can I just, for me, right? I'm throwing myself in the water. Um, I take the value off of myself, and I put it into my spirituality, into my way of living, and into my children, right? Because they're the next generation. And so without them, if we don't instill the proper values in them, everything we do would be for nothing. So every time, I look at them, I'm constantly trying to teach them the things that I've learned along this journey so that they don't have to make the same mistakes. And teaching them to walk with their head held high, to look a certain way, to act a certain way, to dress a certain way. And to every time they leave the house, I said, look at yourself. We do affirmations, we do different things, but I'm like, you will not leave this house and not be a representation of our religion, of, righteousness, of just being neat. Right. So I make sure I tell them, if you have dirt under your nail, if mommy missed a spot, let me know. If you got to rip, we got to rip you. We have to do certain things to make sure that our children are a representation, because I come from an area where, if I go back today, right, I used to take the bus back in the day and things like that. And if I go now, I would still see the same things that I seen then. And what I did see was young ladies that bought the latest shoes, bought the latest bags, bought the latest gear, and they wanted to fit this image, right? But then when I looked at their like children, so 1 years old, 2 years old, 3 years old, and it was just so unbalanced to me. And so I told myself at that point that I would never wanted that to be me, is that I can look at a person and not see how that reflects in the younger generation and in the youth. So for me now, I take value in not just myself, but my children, because your children are that's your eternal life. They're our representation when we walk out the door. So I just want to jump in there really quickly, but I'm passing it over. Dr. Ford, you look like you got something to say.
Oh,
Definitely.
that was so funny. I was like, oh. So first of all, I want everybody to raise their hand. Whoever been on the bus, let her know she wasn't alone. Everybody who didn't count the bus before, they like, raise your hand, raise your hand.
Child still sometimes jump on the bus.
Still
It's probably
does.
2 weeks ago.
There's nothing
This
wrong
week.
with it.
No. The question and what should we value made me think of a quote, and the quote said, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Mama, I love you. Tell my kids I love them. I'm dead." That's the quote of George Floyd.
Mhm.
And what I value now more than ever is the Black liberation of motherhood, wifehood, sisterhood, daughterhood, brotherhood, manhood, fatherhood. Do you understand where we're going with this? Childhood, the Black family. And what I value most importantly is reality. We must make our family, our children, anyone of melanated hue aware of the reality of what is really happening here in the world. It's not only happening in your neighborhood or on TV. But there's some serious things going on in the world,
Mhm.
from food security to gentrification to the Black maternal health crisis, right?
Yes.
And all of these things are happening, and we're not responding as quickly as we need to be. And so I think that it's important, especially as women, that what both the sisters just said is key. But we have to not only make our children aware and make them understand that they are not limited by the situation of what's happening out here, and through our examples of activism, that they also have a responsibility and a duty to pick up the mantle,
Yes.
stand and fight.
Mhm.
Because when you look at the BBs and the Babas, they had parents. They came from a genetic line of people who stood. Frances Quest Wilson, she talks about her father as a race man. Marcus Garvey had a mother who fought.
Yes.
Malcolm X had a mother who fought. Martin Luther King had a father. So there are parents, there are ancestors that are beckoning us to stand and recognize that if you are going to be a person of faith, then you must understand that justice has to be maintained, has to be promulgated, has to be just proliferated everywhere.
Mhm.
And that you cannot have a true religious identity and allow oppression or any type of abuse to continue. Remove yourself from that and create an environment that is conducive for
Yes.
liberation. That's my
Amen.
bad.
I knew she had something to say. Okay. I knew she had something to say. Who wants to jump in? Sis. Oh, wait. Let's pause for just a moment. I do apologize. We have an addition to the conversation, and so I want to introduce to the audience today Miss Shandell Williams. She is coming from Nassau, Bahamas. So now we have 3 Bahamians straight in a row on the right side of the screen. And so we would like for you to please just, before we continue the conversation, we want to welcome you and just give you a second to just introduce yourself. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll brief you on where we are in the conversation so you can jump in.
Okay, good evening, all. Good evening, my sisters. Good evening, family. My name is Shandell Williams.
Yes.
I'm in my 50th year around the sun. Thank
Bless
you. That's an achievement. Thank you. Thank you.
Blessings.
Yes, I've been a paralegal for 24 years. Yes, legal field. I am a doting, spoiling, loving aunt of a gazillion nieces and nephews. A lover of history. I think I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
We have another humble person. I don't know. See, I know so many great things about Sister Shan also, and I know that she plays a huge role in the Bahamian church, and she has been doing her thing for years now, but she doesn't want to give it all away. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do over at the Bahamas branch of the Holy Coptic Church
Okay.
International?
At the branch, I am in charge of finance. Everything comes through me. I am in charge of the decorating, making sure the altar is the way it's supposed to be, everything.
Okay. See,
Yes. Yeah.
there we go. Now we cooking.
Nutshell, please.
And so what we're talking about now, and I just, I told the ladies when we came on that I wanted this today to be a little different. We're actually having a discussion, but I'm not interviewing each person. I don't want people to think I'm not being gentle. They know who I'm talking to. And so it's more just of a roundtable discussion, just speaking about some of these issues, some of the things that we need to address, and preparing for the Ladies of Purpose Christ Consciousness Conference next week. And so what we're talking about now is what values we should have as ladies. So if you want to jump in, you can go ahead and then we'll continue the conversation.
Okay, values. Honesty, dedication to family, making not just your home, but your surroundings peaceful. Too many times, what we see in the media is, especially Black women, fighting each other. There's no sisterhood. There's always, whether it's who has the best hair, the male, what you're wearing, it's always a competition.
Yes.
Being secure in who you are, being proud of who you are. And I would say loving towards your fellow man, or more importantly, caring, understanding. Don't judge too harshly.
Mhm.
Put yourself in their shoes before you do so. Many times for me, if I get a little bit upset or a little, I would be, take a step back, Shan. If that were you, what would you do? Why are you feeling this way? Why are you feeling? Take a look at yourself first.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Now that's real. That's real. So we appreciate your input. Who would like to jump in?
Yes.
I would like to jump in here.
Yes.
I was having a conversation with some family members about the virtuous woman of Proverbs 31.
I'm sorry,
And
Sister Diana Powell. I don't know if it's just me, but is she muffled for everyone?
I'm off
Yes.
now.
It's a little
Yes.
low, sis.
Just a little
Yes.
louder for us.
Is that better now?
You have to lean forward a bit.
Am
Yes.
I clearer?
That's a
All
little
right,
better.
okay.
Mhm.
Yes.
So we were having a conversation about Proverbs 31. I know you're all familiar with Proverbs 31, the virtuous woman. And we were trying to now dissect the different aspects of that virtuous woman. And in looking at some of those characteristics, she's patient, she's courageous, she's diligent, she has wisdom, dedication. But I think what I will take from that more so is her relationship with the Most High, the Most High Heavenly. And kind of going back to what Dr. Porter was saying about the atrocities that is happening in the world right now. We're living in a time of right? You know, even when we speak about our journey, speak about asking the clothes we wear, but I think if we, I mean, I'm in the 50s yet, right? So I've seen over 30 years how things change. We've got the different categories. What we've got Generation X, Generation Y, the millennials, and so forth. And I just feel that um, there needs to be more connection with our relationship with the Most. I think, when we speak in virtues, I think and values, I think we need to take from a particular standpoint. What does the scriptures say about those virtues, and what does the scriptures say about developing those relationships, and how does that emanate within us, and how do we emanate that outward? I just feel that there's a lot of people, especially in the last 2 years during this whole COVID. It's people been put in a place where they've never ever been before.
That's right.
And a lot of us now have to turn inwards to really evaluate and see ourselves. But again, it goes back to, who are we? And that moral standing, where is that actually coming from? And I think as women, as faith, we've got to get back to those moral standards. Because we're going so far off now that the world is just going crazy. We are now seen here as ladies sitting here as an anomaly, where it shouldn't be the case.
Mhm.
Mhm.
This should be the moral standing in terms of our virtues, our behaviors, and actually where is it coming from? It's coming from our scriptures. So when we speak about the virtuous woman, she needs to be a studier. That's what I value. Because in
Mm.
studying and understanding our scriptures, we understand our faith, we understand our moral standing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's
And I think
right.
that we
Mhm.
as society need to get that.
Yes. And so thank you for that, Sister Rima, Sister Diana
Yep.
Powell. And so with that being said, I would like for us to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Dr. Shirlene Chase, Associate Pastor Karen Hilton, Teresa Norris, Sister Teresa, get ready because you're up. We want to hear from you. So give us just a couple minutes and we'll be right back. You're tuned into The Vantage Point.
Calling all ladies and their families to the Ladies of Purpose Christ Consciousness Conference, held March the 24th and the 25th. And the best thing about it is that it is free. So come join the movement as we explore our role as mothers, sisters, aunties, friends, boss ladies, and entrepreneurs. See you there.
But how do you balance it out? Do you take a couple deep breaths? Do you go out and enjoy nature and just be still? Do you prepare your children? Do you make vivid plans and goals? Do you use supplications? Do you just clear the space around you? With JHG Incense, you can realign your world and just set the tone for your day. Like the smoke rising through the ethers, let your mind and thoughts change your environment. JHG Incense. Get your scent today.
For all noble ladies, all regal ladies, all ladies, the Ladies of Purpose Christ Consciousness Conference. Come and join us again. This is on March 24th and March 25th. So mark your calendars.
Welcome back to The Vantage Point. We are in the second half of today's segment. And so since we started a little behind the hour, we're going to go over a little bit. We just want to, get a lot accomplished in today's session because it's a lot for us to talk about. And there's so many people here today. And so I want to thank you all again for taking the time out this evening to be here with me. And so I want to ask, what should the temperament of a lady be? Right? We see over time that has changed. We may not be as what's the word I want to use? Sometimes we might not be as tempered. We may not be as what they would call ladylike or just the softness that one may possess. So, what should the temperament of a lady of purpose be, taking into consideration our circumstance today, taking into consideration that we are fighting a system of racism, white supremacy? And so, I want to pass it over to Associate Pastor Karen Hilton to start this conversation for us, please.
Mhm. So, in that situation, that circumstance, that lady, before she speaks, because you can get so caught up in the fight the fight for liberation, the fight for, I got to fight to let me be seen as a lady. I got to fight because we're melanated people. I got to fight for my children. You can get so caught up in that fight that you become maybe overly aggressive. And that's how they see us. Oh, they're so aggressive. The arms are up in there. And it's the passion that you have, that you're expressing, like, okay. So sometimes what we have to do as ladies is before we answer, because sometimes we could be like, well, I'm going to do this and I want to fight for this and that. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, slow your roll it. So we have a pause, think before you speak, because sometimes it's so easy to just come quick with an answer. So sometimes it's good to just, let me hear the question. Let me actually hear the question. Let me hear what's being said. Let me think about that answer, and then I will speak. So
when I do that, I say it's my ancestors speaking through me. I just put all the blame on them. But continue, please.
so easy. That was me for the last 45 years. So yeah, I get it. But yeah, sometimes it's like we're gonna hold back certain ancestors, or else they'll be like, "You don't see I'm coming. You don't see this." Oh, okay, we see you. as my sister, we see you. Okay,
right.
So yeah, sometimes it's good to be, just hold back, just have that patience enough to say, I want you to hear what I'm saying. So there's ways to say it, and we have to be mindful that it's being received on the other side.
Yeah.
We're giving
That's
it
right.
over.
That's true. Dr. Chase.
Moon. Okay, well, when we're speaking about what exemplifies a noble lady, I always go to Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 to 23. But the fruit, it's a singular word there, but the fruit of the Spirit, that charis consciousness, is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. You see, as ladies of purpose, we must exemplify this fruit of the Spirit. We are called to be examples. Now, we're not going to be perfect. We're not perfect, Patty. Far from. If you dig deep enough, you're going to find enough on all of us. However, as we stand now, we understand that our nation needs exemplars. Our nation needs to see what we have on the screen here. Ladies, you look great. I mean, there's no law against what any of you are wearing. You look great. Let's be that example, that beacon that shines from on top of the hill so that others could say, hey, you know what? It's not impossible to do. It's not impossible to dress ladylike. I don't have to be the damsel in distress in order to be heard. No, I can be. I don't like the term strong black woman. Oh my goodness, I've had that hurled at me so many times. I don't like the term. To me, that means I should be able to take a kick to my face and smile. That means you can do me what you want and I just smile. But let's be that exemplar. So that's my input on that.
Okay. Sister Teresa. And then anybody else can jump in. I just want to make sure that they're heard as well.
For me, it's like Calhoun Templer said, stop, listen, stand back. For me, when somebody, especially a man, or well, I won't say a man, but somebody say something and they say it kind of wrong, and I'll come off, I have to catch myself and stand back and say, okay, and then address it because of the way they came at me.
Yes.
But we just have to stand back, take a deep breath, and address it.
Okay, and
For
see.
me, go ahead, sis.
Keep going.
Oh, that's
Yeah. Because I was just following you up because she's saying basically what I hear. I may be hearing it wrong. She's saying whatever's necessary. So whatever the situation calls for, right? And so I may be the wrong person to ask or answer this kind of question, but sometimes sometimes it requires meekness, that subtle approach. And then sometimes it requires for you to address it the way that it should be addressed, because again, that voice won't be heard in the eyes of the oppressor. That voice won't be heard amongst those who have set out who have set out to enslave us. And so sometimes, as Sister Teresa is saying, I'm just following her up, that is what is required. What does that situation require of you? Now that may not be as biblically sound,
Yes,
and I can't
but it is.
be wrong, but
It
hey,
is.
Yes.
I'm just being honest.
It
So
is, Sister Azandi and the sisters, it is biblically sound because in Matthew 10:16, it says, Behold, I send you forth as sheep amongst wolves.
mm,
You must be
Yep.
in the midst of wolves. So be ye
Yep.
therefore wise as serpent and harmless as doves.
I knew
So
somebody
you
would back
you
me
have
up.
to be wise in how you respond to certain things. So it is scripturally sound, my sister. And so, and also in the original books of the Bible, I also wanted to state, and our African theology, it speaks in the book of Ma'at, practicing privately what you practicing. I'll read it. It says, and original books of the Bible, I'll just briefly, oh, humanity, cosmic harmony is achieved by living correctly, practicing privately what you advocate publicly. And so you got to be the ones to practice what you teach. So if you're teaching something out there, you have to definitely practice it. And that's not always easy because we've been conditioned. And I can rightfully say so because I've grew up with boys. I was the only girl amongst 10 brothers. And so I grew up rough. And honestly, I grew up dodging literal bullets. And so I had to fight. But I realized that I had to find a place on where to put that energy. And that's learning how to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So that is still a component. Many of us ladies, we have fought through so many things and continue to fight through so many things in becoming ladies of purpose and becoming women of faith as well. So I also want to say as well, walking in that true faith, sometimes it's so easy for us to say, lean on our own understanding. You understand? And sometimes that we continuously get in our own way when we find situations come in our face, we get in our own way, and walking in true faith and putting our faith into the Most High Heavenly One. You understand? And so that's what I wanted to share with that.
Yes,
So it is scripturally sound.
Thank you. I thought someone would back me up. Thank you. And
No,
so,
I would have backed you up because it also says beat your plowshares into swords. It says
hey,
that in the Bible.
Yes.
Now,
yeah.
I will fight, but there's a time and place for everything. To everything, there's a season and a time to
Yes,
That's right.
Ecclesiastes.
There's a time to
yes,
fight, and there's a
Ecclesiastes
time. That's
3:1.
right.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we exhibit quiet dignity and grace as we go along, but sometimes we need to avoid putting ourselves in situations where we have to fight. We can
Right.
avoid those situations.
And so, is what are you fighting for, right? So that no one
Yep.
watching, so that they get a clear understanding is that what are you fighting for? When I say fight, I mean fighting for your family. Fighting
Yes.
for that family dynamic that we want to upkeep. So,
Yes.
I want to ask then, since we're speaking about family, what should a lady of purpose want in a man? And then we'll talk a little bit about what he should want from her.
A
And so
man of
I
purpose.
see Sister Sharice Hannah over there. She's gonna she's gonna kick us off.
I I just like to share something with you. Somebody asked me today about how it is. What is it like being married to a man for so long? And I said, in everything about your relationship, it has to be intentional. Because there are going to be days when you don't like one another. And then there are going to be days when you just love everything about him. You know what I mean?
I felt that.
Sometimes
Yes.
I feel like putting him in the garbage, but the garbage in the kitchen, not the one out to the gate. And I'm sure he would feel that way about me. But my husband, from the get-go, he's always been a leader, I can say.
Mm.
You know, he always has a plan. He always has an end goal, and he always has a word of encouragement, even when you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Even, you know, he's that man who we always, early in our marriage, we coined terms. So he was like, we call it the 3 P's: priest, provider, protector.
Mm.
Say it 3 times. I'm taking that. Say it one more time.
They for the ones in the back.
So he's that man who would pray with you. He would pray for you. Literally. Protection. I told somebody, if they come in my house, they want to be here, because you have to go through so many security features just to get in my home. So there are things like that he does. Even with the kids, making sure that they're safe, always giving them a sound advice. He's just that kind of person. You know? So I've been with him for almost 30 years, and I would say I would do it over again with the same man.
Yes.
I love that. And so we definitely want to hear from you when we come back around, speaking about what should the man want from you, want from the ladies. So does anybody want to jump in on what should a lady of purpose want in a man?
Well, like I shouted before, I'll go ahead. Like I shouted before, a man of purpose. You see, the Bible talks about being unequally yoked. And if he doesn't have a purpose, he just looks good. It's going to fail. You have to have that purpose. You have to have that way of moving forward towards a common goal. And the best way, the best place to be, if you're a lady of purpose and if you're an atonist, is to find that gentleman in atonism. That's where I found my husband, in atonism. And yes, sometimes I do feel like putting him in the bin, oh, believe me. And I know he feels that way. But because we're working towards a goal, because there's something we're working towards, he doesn't stay in the bin for very long. Maybe, you know, take him back out and dust him off a bit. Go ahead, Dr. Ford.
All right. It's so hard to come behind such great women. And Dr. Chase, I'm up there always. I remember I first heard her speak. She was speaking on the radio station in London. And I was like, who is this woman? And listen to her speak. You can feel, we always talk about Namastu and the divinity. And the divinity just pours out. You know, she opens her mouth and it's like, ta-da!
Come on.
And so I always
Lilani Ray.
Lilani Ray for surrounding me with so many women. And so based off your question, what to look for in a man, and I'm going to go biblically.
Righteous man.
Righteous man, right? I'm going to go biblically. I'm going to Genesis 17:1. And it says, and when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared and said unto him, I am the Almighty Most High. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And when you look up the word walk, you come up with the word halak, and it means to live, to die a manner of life. And then when you look up the word perfect, it means whole, complete, sound, healthful, healthful. And so you look at Abram, and he becomes Abraham, and he becomes the father of many nations. And because he was perfect with his walk with the Most High, he was able to enhance the women in his life, the wives in his life, starting with Sarah, right? And she was the daughter of Terah, and she was absolutely gorgeous. And she was so gorgeous that she also represents the beginning of women wearing face veils and modesty that we don't have today. Because so many times you turn on the TV and you see women, all colors, shapes, and sizes, showing everything, right? And it got so bad that, you know, Abram was like, look, you got to be my sister, cause these people tripping, they gonna kill me. Please, I need you to be my sister. Right. So we're introducing modesty and being aware of your presentation, and having that guidance for her to listen to her husband during that time. And then along the way, his second wife, right, Hagar. And once again, these are women with powerful fathers. Her father was Imhotep, right? Imhotep, the father of chemistry. So now she is coming from a powerful family, having the influence of a father in her life who has taught her things, right? And then she comes along and she has the first child, right? Because at that moment, Sarah was barren. And, you have the whole story of now Sarah has to kind of become and has to deal with her emotional state and her mental state of not only being able to deal with her reproduction issues, but also to deal with the feelings of insecurity, jealousy, all these things, because according to, other, when you get invaded in other people's lifestyles, it's not about the we, some other lifestyles are about the I. And so she has to go through this. Then you have the third wife, and that's Keturah, right? And even Keturah, her father was Nimrod, right? And she is looking at her dad, and her dad's powerful, but she's like, I'm gonna look at people. And so she hooks up with Abraham, and people don't realize that she's multilingual. She is able to help him along his travel. So every wife, every person in his life was able to become something influential that stands the test of time in history. And because of the children that they procreate and make, these children become literally men of renown, right? They become where we still talk about their stories to this day. And he only had 8 sons, no daughters. And from these generations and this genetics and this genealogy, we have this plethora of Black excellence that is intentional. And so once again, I think that when you come and you're looking for a man, you want a man that is going to walk with the Most High and seek after that perfection, just like Abram. Because right now, if you look at the state of where we are attempting to build our nation again. We have to get back to the point where when you look in history, Africa was being invaded, not only for the resources and the people, but because of the establishments. When you have all these manuscripts and when somebody intentionally tells you nothing about your history. So we have to get back to having men who understand and having women who understand and creating children who understand. Our purpose is to get back on top.
Yes. Thank you. And I'm so upset that I have to try to cut my questions down, or just talking points. It's really just talking points because of time, but I'm trying to get it in. I want to start with Kahun, Tefnut, and then, I really want to hear from Sister Teresa. I really want to hear from everyone, following. And I want to go to the second part of that question is, what should the man want then from the Lady of Purpose? Because we also always have so many expectations of the man. He needs to be this, he needs to be that. I deserve this and I deserve that. And, look at me, look at this, I'm the catch. So with that being the case, what should we have to expect highly of ourselves, but what should he expect of you? What are you offering as a Lady of Purpose? We're not talking street, we're talking as a Lady of Purpose. What should he want in you? Can you start us off, please?
What should he want in you?
Yes, what should a man want from a Lady of Purpose?
Definitely Diane Powell to smile. I know that much. I know that much. You want her to smile.
She's smiling, by the way. So, and that's a very good question. What should he want in her? Because, as we've heard, like, these are things I want in a man. And one of the things that I always say is, well, you want this in the man. I'm going to come to your question in just a second. We want this in the man, but are you bringing what is needed to the table? You want all of this, but do you have it? You say, look at all of this. But when we look at, he could look at all that and think, well, and You know,
Mhm.
I can get that down the road, and some, and a cookie, and a tray of wings. You
So
know,
down the road, he don't got to go far, huh?
you know, so we have to
Yeah.
be mindful. You know, it's like, okay, are you bringing what, you know, do you deserve this type of man? So when a man, I mean, from what I've seen and read and learned, is what he should be looking for is a woman who has morals. Today, like, you know, as our sister Dr. Ford has mentioned, we're living in a crazy world. And right now, you know, and I was speaking to my son and my daughter recently and have this conversation about, you know, where they're being taught so much programs, and they said, well, what's wrong with it? And I said, well, if you have to start a sentence with "it's only," then you know that you shouldn't be going there.
Mhm.
It's only a kiss. It's only a hug. It's only one. It's only, if you have to start
Yeah.
with "it's only," it shouldn't be there. So when the man is looking at a lady, especially a lady of purpose, you know, she should have the morals, and she shouldn't have to return around and say, well, it's only, no, I just don't do it.
Mm.
You know, she should have virtue, as in, you know, who she walks with, who she speaks with, who her friends are. You know, there's that old saying, you know, you pick your friends like you pick your fruit. You wouldn't pick that guy. That's a bad apple. Let me eat that one. That looks nice. You know, you wouldn't do that. You'd be like, you know, we'd be polite and we'd be gracious and we present ourselves, and always being at that point where, you know, your image, and it's not just about your image, because you can have a beautiful image and the worst personality ever. So, you know, he should like have that conversation, have
Yeah.
multiple conversations, you know, and sometimes when we don't realize we do this to the men, we watch them like from all 7 months beforehand, and then we make the approach. So, you know, it's like, you know, and it comes as well. And don't be surprised, the men are doing the same. You know, I see you like last year doing this. So, you know, is she, you know, is this, when you look at her, you know, ask the question, is this woman the woman I would like to live the rest of my life with? It may not happen. However, you ask that question. Is this woman the woman I would like to, you know, have children for, you know, bring up my children? And it's so important, because if you can't answer, if it's a or a no, then that's not the woman that you need to be looking for. What is her purpose? What is her goal? Is her goal to make her nails look good every day? And I'm not saying, you know, ladies watching, your nails can look good, but is that your purpose? What are you doing? Where are you taking it? And what can you do for him as much as what he can do for you? You know, so, you know, he has to then ask those questions, you know, before, you know, approaching, because, you know, a lady of purpose, or a lady in itself, does have, you know, she takes responsibility so seriously. Is make sure, you know, I make sure that he looks just as good as I look.
Right.
You know, I make sure that he always eats. You know, sometimes we can be upset with our husbands, and, you know, and like my sister says, you know, I want to put him outside, but not outside. I ain't trying to let nobody else catch him. He can stay in the vicinity of where I can still keep house. Okay, let's make up, let's go. You know, so it's, you know, those qualities in a lady that he should, you know, see, and then say, okay, well, this lady, she is a lady. She's not just a woman who happens to wear a skirt. She is a lady.
Yes.
Yes. And before we call on Sister Teresa, I want to hear from Sister Shan, because I know you joined us a little late, so we really want to hear what you have to say, please.
Okay. What he should look for in a female. I wrote down some stuff. One would be her relationship with Creator. Yes. And to your point, I know it's quiet dignity and grace. And what came to mind for me was a quote of walk softly, carrying a big stick. And the stick to me for the female is her mind, the wisdom that she has, her ability to adapt, to pivot, and also remember she will be the first teacher of the children. She's the first mother. So what is in her mind, her mindset? He needs to look at that. Also, confidence. Someone he can find his peace with. Like Sister Shahrazad Ali said, no man wants to come home. As soon as he gets to the door, he's trying to figure out which one of her personalities he's going to meet.
Amen. Amen.
Yes. And
Yeah.
can she get with his program? He has a plan, a man of purpose. Can she help him? A helpmate.
Mm-hmm.
Can she help him with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. See, Sister Shan is talking to us today. I hear you, Sister Shan. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And go ahead,
Oh, and
Sister
also
Teresa. And then
control.
control.
Control the mouth. Yes.
Okay.
She said sharp tongues get cut your own throat.
What would you say, Sister Teresa? And then Ari may add. Anybody else, want to jump in? And I do apologize. I know it's so many of us and trying to fit it in within, a short amount of time. So if you have something to say it. This is not, each person may not answer every question, but we're having a discussion, and I think is really enlightening. So go ahead, please, Sister Teresa.
Yeah, he wants to make sure that she's, like everybody says, she's valuable to him, as far as helping him achieve his goals, the family's goals, and everything that they are trying to accomplish. Is he trustworthy? Does she handle the finances? Does she, take care of the household? How do she correctly take care of the household? Because a lot of marriages fail on that because they're not on the same page. One likes to spend money, one likes to save, and it doesn't work. So you have to be both on the same page as how you spend your money. Trustworthy.
Yes.
Yes. And so I'm seeing something. I got a message, and they are asking. It's funny, I'm laughing. Why does it, and it's not just to you, Sister Teresa, everybody's saying the same thing. They like, help him, right? So why does it just have to be his goals? Anybody can answer this. It's just a society. Why does it have to be his goals? Why can't it be your goals? Why does it have to be his goals? Somebody please help us.
Can I mention something?
Please do.
All right, so I'm gonna take a page from Sister Shan. She mentioned Sister Shahrazad Ali, and I found this to be so profound. It says, "A man can only rise no higher than his woman. Where there is no decent woman, there's no decent man. By nature, a man cannot submit to a woman. The black man is the original man." So when you're talking about family, when you're talking about family, our role as women in that family is to help get that family to the next level. So that means that we have to help the man reach that goal, whether he wants to take that family to the next level. We are to be there to help him
and advise. That's right.
That's right.
So it isn't just, we have to see that goal as a family goal, not just, why is it only for the man? No, it's for the family, and it's a family goal. And I think that's what everybody so very eloquently said.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Does anyone want to add to this point?
I'll like to jump in at this point. When you look at the scriptures, Genesis 2:24 speaks about the man leaves his mother and father and cleaves to his wife. So when we start to analyze what does that mean? That means then the female has to be a type of woman, or that wife needs to be a type of woman that she needs to be also his backbone. Yeah. But when we I think sometimes in society now, I think we get so caught up in what I want, or what he wants, and goes back to what the sister said. It's a family goal.
That's right.
My grandmother, who passed away, one of the things she said to me was, one of the things about young people, it's related to her today, is any little thing you want to get a divorce. Right? And I just feel that when we look at what a man should want in a woman, I think it's we walk together.
Mhm.
You know, when we speak about the virtuous woman in Proverbs 31, the diligence, patience, that is also what he is looking for. But
Mm.
it is towards the end goal.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That we
Absolutely.
cannot move away from scripture. Because when we're dealing with a righteous man, he needs to walk in the life of scripture. The
Mm.
woman needs to
Amen.
walk in the
Mhm.
life of scripture. The scripture is our foundation. Without that,
That's
we
right.
have no relationship.
Come on.
Amen.
Yes. Yes.
Amen. We don't have
Amen.
no relationship.
That's
And
right.
I think in today's society, we've moved, and I think a lot of us sitting here have spoken about, we've moved so far away from those core values. We just get put up on, this feminist view of womanhood and all these sorts of things
Mhm.
into the mix, and it gets all messed up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then we bring this into our relationship, and we wonder what's going wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we should mirror each other in terms of our values.
Yes.
We should
Amen.
mirror each other.
Amen.
Yes.
Yes.
You know,
Right.
the foundation of that is the family unit, then it's the community.
That's right.
Without that family united together, the husband, the wife, then there is no community.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just think that, I
Yeah.
just wanted to add to the mix.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's excellent.
Yes.
Can I just
That
quickly
was
jump in on
wonderful.
this one?
Yes.
You all are speaking
Yeah.
today. You're speaking
that's
to me. So I
yeah.
know that it's people out there listening and really, really, really taking something away from today's message. And so I seen Dr. Ford with your hand up. Did you want to jump in? Because
I wanted to jump in, but I know we don't
I
have that
want
much.
to jump in too.
Yes. Don't worry. I want to fit 3 more questions in if we can. I'll try to go as quickly as possible. I'm looking at the time, and we'll try to speed it up a bit. But if we maybe do, I don't have a timer, 90 seconds, a minute, we try to all get it in there. But I wanted to ask, what has white supremacy done to the female in the sense of what we can actually identify in today's society? And I ask this because, this system has been so intricately developed and put together that it's sometimes hard for people who does not have the same understanding or religious background, conscious background, whatever it is, to actually pinpoint how it's constructed and how it directly affects their lives. So, in speaking in today's sense, things we can identify, how has racism, again, white supremacy, what has it done to the female?
Go ahead, Cajon Tough Nut.
Okay. Yeah. I'm making all these judgments. My sister's making some really valid points. I'm like, yes, and that bit. Okay, and this bit. I got a whole
That's
page
why I always keep my pen. That's why I always keep
right here. So one of the things that we can see, well, many of the things that we can see, it's like the strong Black woman. That's a high up on the list. Or if there's no ring on it, put a ring on it, that kind of thing. Or everything to the left. And it's all that kind of this is what we can see, and it's almost like, well, I can do for self. I don't need this man. What do I need him for? And we can see so many. So many images that's supposed to represent, the melanated woman of faith, or just the melanated, just the Black woman, throughout, and it's a falseness, and when you delve into it and you take it apart, you see things like Snow White, or Princess, what's it, Shrek's wife, or you'll see
Fiona.
you see, and you go and you'll see all these different princesses from Disney. When you start to dismantle it, and what that has done ultimately is separated the woman from the male, as if to say, well, I can do everything a man can do. I can play his game. I can play. It's not for us to play that game. We both have roles. And what we've done now is the roles have been like put in a bowl and chucked up, and whatever one you catch, let's go. And that's what we can see today in society. And that's what white supremacy has ultimately done, saying, well, you don't need this man. You can do for yourself. I'll give you just as much money. You can go get your own house. And if he's not earning, that woman, we can see, if you look carefully, mindful of it. If he's not earning what she's earning, it's a little bit of a look down, you know. And I'm not saying everyone is like this, a stereotypical type of woman, you know, and if he's not, you know, the way that she wants him to be, it's almost like, well, that's the man's role. Let the man be the man. We're now taking that role and say, well, we'll step forward. You follow me, you know. And you know, like as one of my sisters has already said, you know, we're there. We're the backbone. We stand with them. You know, a great man said, you know, for any woman or man to run ahead in this race by themselves with one arm tied behind the back, you're gonna lose. So it's not about that. And that's what white supremacy has given us, that false image that we can achieve, we can succeed on our own. The African history, story, you know, ancestry, all of our greats, it was about the family. And that's ultimately what they have now taken away from us and tried to project forward, that it's only about one or the other.
That's right. If I may, you know, before we continue, if I may, and thank you so much, Kahun Tefnut. And I pray I can say this right, because this is something that, you know, weighs heavy on me, and is that we have become so disconnected from who we are. We went from being the mothers, right? And I don't mean mother in the sense of you had a child, because I have children. I mean mother in the sense of being connected to nature, being connected to the universe, instilling those principles, being able to raise your child and the true nurturing, to being slaves now. Right. And a slave can't defend their child the way that mother can. A slave can't defend their or treat their husband the way that original mother principle can. We're talking about the mother of earth can, right? Bibi Marimba Annie spoke, she taught this, and she speaks about objectification, and how the Greeks some time ago, they teach that in order to understand a thing, you have to separate yourself from that thing. But African theology tells us that we are interconnected. As above, so below. As within, so without. I am because you are. So we don't identify, that wasn't our reality. But they teach that we have to be separate from that thing. That means that if I look at something as an object, that means that I can abuse that thing, right? The same way you would a phone, or the same way you would, you know, you can an object. So I can destroy nature. I can destroy the woman. I can treat a human, another person, as if they're not a person, right? A mother can kill their child now. And as Black people, when have we ever seen that type of behavior amongst ourselves? This is normally European behavior. And so we have become so disconnected from who we are that now we're truly living in someone else's image. And it affects the way that we think, it affects the way that we speak, it affects the way that we raise our children, it affects everything that we do, the way our whole life is constructed, because we don't have that true sense of spirituality, that true connection to those of our own self and kind, those, you know, just like us. The way we're speaking to each other today, so many people can't, you know, many of us can't sit down and have these type of conversations, right? Because it's a competition. The second you disconnect yourself from someone, now you have to compete with that person, right? But when you're interconnected, then you can love your sister like you love yourself. You can truly have that love. And so when we speak about how it affected us, I think that's one of the biggest effects that it has had on us as females. And yeah, I'll leave it like that. I'll leave it like that.
Listen.
I love the time when you said that we're going to go back to the show, and I'm actually going to immortalize that statement that you made. When you become disconnected, that's when you can have the envy, the jealousy, the bickering.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm just going to keep it brief. You know, you also mentioned that we're slaves. And a lot of people, a lot of us don't realize that we only truly became slaves when they realized that we didn't need the chains anymore. Because now that they've got the programming in, we go on slavery mode autopilot. They don't have to whip us. They don't have to push us back. We keep ourselves in check. And
Yes.
part of that, you know, we have to work with our men. We have to join with our other sisters or brothers. We have to. Why? Because now there's no other group of people on the planet whose men are called the backbone of their society. We're the only group of people. So you mean our men are so weak that we now have to become their backbone? But we have to become their backbone. You know why? If you're a woman and you earn more, you strengthen him so he can stand. If you're a woman and you have ideas, you can plan, you're good at that, you strengthen him, you keep him standing strong. If you're a woman and all you can really do is cook and keep the house clean and cook, then do that, because you are ensuring that
That's right.
everyone is fed, everyone looks well. You see, whatever we can do, we put our shoulders next to our men, and let's change that dynamic of us being their backbone and give them the strength so that in the next generation and the generation after, no group of people has to look and say, oh, their women are their backbone. We can change that dynamic, because that's the reality now. But we're going to change that.
Yes,
Definitely.
that's right.
Yes. And so I wanted to take it to scripture, because as you ladies have mentioned, that we are ladies and people of Black people, Nubian Melnite people, who are connected to nature, who are spiritual people. And so one of the things that racism, white supremacy has done was they took our scriptures. They infiltrated our scriptures. And because they knew the type of people that we are, so what that did to us was that, as Sister Zandi mentioned, what that did was that actually made us live and interpret everything through their eyes. So we're actually wearing their prescription. We don't even know what our prescription is, our glasses are, And so we're now learning as ladies of women, ladies of purpose, because we're sitting here today because we've gone through the scripture. We have now, we don't, as in atonism, we say that the Bible is not the problem. It is the mistranslation, misinterpretation of the Bible. And so as we go through the Bible, and of course, during this conference, you will hear us speak about the language, because we say language is key, because that is going to unfold exactly who we are. It said God made us in the image and likeness. Whose image and likeness? But many years, what white racism, white supremacy, they gave us an image of this white God, this white image. And so we've been praising that. And even in our homes, our parents, they didn't know better, but nonetheless, I know I've grown up with, I've heard my stepmommy saying, you better marry a white man, because that's what she knew. And that's what she deemed as beautiful. So that's what we have been facing. Our children are now facing that. That's the society we're now living in, even in the educational system. As we're in this school now at Catherine, we're now using the principles of Ma'at to try to curb some of the conditioning that has been happening with our children. And so being as examples of us ladies of purpose, as families, taking our homes and becoming that living examples in our homes everywhere we go. So sister, as you put on that, Sister Diana Powell, when you put on that African garb, they knew a certain level of respect, because that was, you were literally standing bold in your culture of who you are as an African, beautiful Black African woman. And so as we continue to do that, I think that's what we're doing. We are now taking back that control of what racism, white supremacy has been doing to us. And that's the purpose of this women's conference.
That's right. Okay, thank you. I'm loving this today. And so I have one more question before we go. Maybe two. We're really going to end out speaking about this conference, but this was important for me to make this a talking point, because it's unique what we have here today. It doesn't seem like we're the average Christian. So people watching for the first time might be like, I don't understand the verbiage that's being used in the sense of you're talking conscious, but you're talking, Christian, but you're talking Bible, you know what I'm saying? So it's unique that we can have consciousness and conscientiousness alongside our true faith, right?
Mhm.
And so I know we're coming from different backgrounds here, different, religious backgrounds or non-religious backgrounds, whatever you have it. But what is it? And I would like everyone to answer this if we can as quickly, still make your point. What is it that made it clear for you that God, the Most High, the I Am, is real? Because for me, sometimes being in amongst people in the conscious community, they would take the God aspect out of it, right? Because the Bible does say, I say ye are gods, but you are all children of the Most High. But they still eliminate the Most High out the equation. So what made it clear for you, or kept your faith in knowing that God is real? Anyone can kick it off.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in. And the reason why I'm jumping in is I'm going to go to Genesis 3:15. And it talks about enmity, right? Between the woman's seed, right? And we have to, that verse right there, right, helps you to understand that the Most High Heavenly One, and especially like in Hosea, it says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And so a lot of times as a Christian, we go right over that word. Never really understood what that word even meant. Did not link it to at that time, because I didn't understand the importance of language, the importance of etymology. I didn't understand that it meant hatred. And we all talk, and you see on TV about these, hate crimes, right? Because racism is considered a hate crime. And I live in America. And in 1965, there was a report called the Moynihan Report. And it looked at Negro and melanated families. And in that report, racism, white supremacy, not only does it want to oppress you, but it studies you at the same time. It studies you to be able to shift, because remember, it's very sultry. It's very, it moves, it glides, and be like, oh, you want to come this way? Okay, we're going to come that way. It's very subtle in its movement. Mm-hmm. And I want to read this one page from the report. It says, and this is 1965, over 50 years ago. And it says, but it may not be supposed that the Negro, we're going to say melanated for the course of this conversation, melanated community has not paid a fearful price for the incredible mistreatment to which it has been subjected over the past centuries. Mm-hmm. In essence, the melanated community has been forced into a matriarchal structure, which, because it is so out of line with the rest of American society, seriously retards the progress of the group as a whole, and imposing a crushing burden on the male, and in consequence on a great many women of color as well. When you look at nature, right, you have two entities that come together, that form a family, that move forward. We have to remember, sisters, that right now, yes, there's a lot going on, but you gotta get the mind right.
Talk to us, Dr. Ford.
You gotta get the mind right. You gotta upgrade yourself. You can start off as a YouTubian. Those are my people that just watch videos and never really check out nothing else. You can start off as a YouTubian. You can watch videos about different countries. You can learn about food. You can learn just about Black people around you, right? Because right now, what is happening, to your point, Sister Azandi, is there's such a level of self-hate. And research has been proven, don't believe me, Google it. Racial pride is a form of a psychic self-defense for melanated people. And when you teach your children this, it inoculates them from some of this crazy that's
Mm-hmm.
going on. So we have to get back to loving ourselves.
Mm.
And that first starts with what's going on up in here.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. Anybody else want to jump in on this one, please?
I will.
Yes.
No, we-
Oh, go ahead.
You're jumping. Down.
Okay, Namas.
Okay.
For me, I'm sorry, there's a dog barking in the background. Okay. For me, when I came to the realization, when my mother passed away in 2004, I felt a disconnect because both parents were gone. The grandparents had passed from my childhood. So I felt a disconnect. So I started a family tree because I realized I really didn't know much about them. And from that, I started watching Dr. John Henrik Clarke, Those Conscious Right. And then my question was, why am I here? What is it? I found myself literally sitting down in the Catholic Church one time at church, 11 o'clock Mass. They're praying and I'm looking around. I'm an usher, but I'm looking around. Why am I here? I feel nothing. It was a disconnect. And I was like, you know what? This isn't making any sense. I'm looking at my family tree. I'm looking at the walls around me, all the stained glass, and no one looks like me. Why am I here? And it was the 15th of October, 2015. I know the date. I was listening to the Chrissy Love Show, and Cajon Montu, Ta was on, Vasesh was on. They were talking, and then they invited, you can come down to a Catherine. I was like, okay, I like what they're saying. It's in line with Dr. Clarke because that's who I was following. Let me see what this is. I went, never looked back since. And for what I was looking for, why am I here? I found it.
Yes,
That
thank
was
you.
for me.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Lastly, whoever did not speak, Sister Teresa, please jump in here. And then we're going to head out. We're going to tell them why they need to come to the conference. Is being a woman of faith work? You can either address the last question about what made it clear for you that the Most High is real, or you can let us know, is being a woman of faith work? Because we did title today, Ladies Get the Work. So is being a lady of faith work? How so? Or do you just say, let go and let God?
Let go like God. But for me, it was the Most High. It was, I couldn't relate, like she was saying, I couldn't relate to the Baptist church back in the day. I didn't get anything out of going. And then when Elder Mike brought this to me, it's like a light bulb went off.
Yes.
It's like it was what I was waiting for. It all came to be like, okay, that's what it is. That's what I've been missing. That's what I've been missing. That's why I couldn't relate to church. I would go sit there every Sunday with my aunt, mother, but it would not register. And so when he brought this, it's like a light bulb just went off. It's like, yes, that's what I've been missing. This is what I've been missing.
Thank you. I'm trying to write this down. Okay. Anyone else want to jump in before we close today? Is there let's do it this way. Is there anything anyone wants to say pertaining to the conversation in general before we leave? If not, please tell us the importance of attending the conference, but not why is it important for people to attend? Why is this conference important to you? Why is it important to you? Anyone?
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to answer several of those questions in past. And one of the reasons why it's important, okay, for not just us, but important for the family to attend. Why is it important to me? And going back and just, answering some of the other questions. Now, for me, we're inspiring those ladies or even those men. Our religion, our scripture, that is what inspires us to continue. How does this lady or any lady, use the Bible, use the scriptures to inspire her and to function within the world, being able to be relatable. And so that's what's one of the things that we're doing, is being relatable, but we're relatable and we're using our scriptures. Now, for me, for example, Hagar. Now, Hagar's story, and I know Dr. Ford referred to her because I was like, oh, I want to talk about Hagar, so, she was for me, I followed her, I always grew up with her story. I don't know why, but it's always, her story always happened to come around reading about her and how, Abraham was like, okay, this is my, this is, her maid, and giving her, her maid, she couldn't have children. So if you look at Hagar's story, that story in itself is an inspirational story, because what she went through, she went from, I'm just trying to be a good maid. I'm just trying to be, not just a maid like, okay, cook 7, but she, was there, helpmate. She did her job. She did her duty. And then, Sarai was like, girl, get out. She was put out with her and her child, because we know the story that she was given to her husband because Sarah was having, childbirth, not being able to conceive. And so when she went out with her son, she was out in the wilderness. She was out there. She was like, okay, I've got you, my boy. Let's go. And we can relate to that, because some of us, I've been in situations where I've been homeless and had children. It's like, okay, where do we go next? And Hagar's story is one of those inspirational stories. She held onto her religion. She held onto her faith throughout the whole time. She never let go. She was out there. She was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to keep going. And that's how we would say to, ladies, women, brothers, men, whatever happens, that story here, our story, we've all been, we've all been ups and downs.
Yes.
And she came out on the other side, and she held fast to that. And that's why she's one of the names, or one of the women that we're still speaking about today. Because
That's right.
like, those are, within, she's a lady of the Karas consciousness. She held on to that. And that's what inspires us. And that's what inspired many other women. So it's important. It's so important to me, because not only did she inspire women before me while they were, writers, Mariam Ba'ani, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, amongst Shahrazad Ali, love her book. They're inspirational women that says, look, at the end of the day, let's look at this whole thing. And Hagar was one of them that says, okay, all right, I'm going to hold on to my faith and I want to keep going, because I know there's a light at the end of it. And so that's why we're saying this Karas consciousness, and women and the family should come to it, because we're promoting about the family within the Karas consciousness and the ladies' purpose, and how we can continue and inspire others, even if they're not within the ministry, but to invite them in to our ministry to say, come sup with us.
That's right.
Right.
Everyone here is speaking to me today. Kahun Teflon brought us to the Bible. Prior to that, Sister Teresa told us how true Christianity saved her. Christianity in its true sense, the way it was presented to her, how a light bulb went off. Sister Shan hit us with, it was the 3rd of September, right? So she remembered. So that date, Mark, knowing when, she received her salvation, is very important. And so everyone here today gave us words of inspiration, and gave us something to think about. And so I truly appreciate everyone's presence today. I appreciate your participation in the conversation. And I want to encourage everyone watching to attend the conference. We're not saying that we know it all. We're not saying that we're perfect. I trip up on my words sometimes. I may not have it all, but I have true faith, and everyone here has true faith in the Creator, to know that we can help each other, we can pull each other up, and we can live by way of the scriptures. So you've been tuned into The Vantage Point. It's been a minute. It's been over an hour and a half, but it was necessary. Thank you all, and we will see you next week at the Christ Consciousness Conference. We will not go live on Friday because we expect you to be there. And so once again, thank you all for joining us today. This has been The Vantage Point. Love is love. Peace.
No, I still